What is this? I found it here. This is my wife's ring.
Welcome to Grace Mitchell's Stories, where every tale reveals the hidden power of kindness, courage, and hope. Today's story is about a moment inside a glittering corporate tower, a moment no one saw coming. When a CEO gave his ring to the cleaner, and her reaction stunned the entire room. The skyscraper stood tall, its glass windows reflecting the glow of the morning sun like polished mirrors. Inside, the headquarters of Harrington Global pulsed with energy, sleek hallways, marble floors, and an unbroken rhythm of heels clicking across tiles as assistants rushed from one meeting to another. At the very top of the tower was Victor Harrington, the CEO, a man in his 50s with steel gray hair and sharp eyes. Victor was known throughout the business world as ruthless, efficient, and unshakable. His suits were tailored, his words precise, and his time valued above all else. People whispered about him in corridors, some feared him, others admired him, but no one ignored him. That morning, Victor was preparing for a major shareholders meeting. The company had faced a turbulent year, and this meeting would determine its future. Every detail mattered. The boardroom gleamed with polished mahogany tables and crystal glasses filled with water. The city skyline stretched beyond floor-to-ceiling windows, as if success itself had been built into the view. In the midst of all this grandeur was Rosa. Rosa was the cleaner. She moved silently through the office spaces, carrying her cart of supplies, her hands roughened from years of scrubbing floors and polishing glass. Her uniform was plain, her shoes worn, but her movements carried a quiet dignity. She came every morning before the sun rose, often staying late into the night. Rosa was invisible to most. Executives rarely acknowledged her. Assistants brushed past without looking. But Rosa didn't complain. She had lived long enough to know that kindness wasn't owed, and dignity had to be carried within. Yet Rosa's story was not ordinary. Behind her weary eyes lay memories of hardship. She had once been a teacher in her homeland, back before life had forced her across oceans to seek work. She had raised 3 children alone after her husband died, and though her body bore the scars of struggle, her heart remained gentle. She was the kind of woman who paused to straighten a crooked frame in the lobby, who whispered encouragement to herself while scrubbing boardroom tables, who prayed quietly for the success of those who never noticed her. On this morning, Rosa was polishing the boardroom floor when Victor walked in. He was rehearsing numbers under his breath, adjusting the cuff of his crisp white shirt. He barely noticed her until his foot brushed against her cleaning bucket. She looked up quickly. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir," she said softly, pulling the bucket aside. Victor paused, almost irritated. But something in her tone, respectful, humble, caught him. He nodded curtly, then continued toward his chair. The board members began to arrive. Men and women in sharp suits carrying leather portfolios, their conversations filled with stock numbers and percentages. Rosa quietly retreated to the corner, waiting for them to settle before finishing her work. As the meeting began, Victor stood at the head of the table, his voice steady, his presence commanding. Charts flashed across the screen, numbers were dissected, tension filled the air like static, as each shareholder weighed profit against loss, future against failure. But amid the stern discussions, Victor's eyes drifted just once to Rosa. She was wiping the edges of the glass table, careful not to disturb the papers stacked neatly by the executives. She moved with grace, her face calm, her hands steady. For a fleeting second, Victor felt something strange: humility. Here he was, speaking of millions, while a woman who earned so little worked with such quiet dignity. He shook off the thought, refocusing on the presentation. The hours dragged on. At last, Victor closed the meeting with a speech about perseverance and integrity. He removed his wedding ring, a gold band that had been his constant reminder of his late wife, and placed it on the table as he gestured. "What matters is not only the profit we create, but the values we uphold," he said firmly. "Without values, wealth is meaningless." The board nodded, impressed by his words. The meeting adjourned. Executives began gathering their papers, discussing strategies in hushed voices. Victor remained behind, staring at the ring on the polished wood. His hand hovered above it, then stopped. He thought of his wife, of the years they had shared, and the emptiness that had followed her passing. At that moment, Rosa stepped forward quietly. She had been waiting for the room to clear so she could clean. She noticed the ring. Without hesitation, she picked it up and held it out with both hands. "Sir, you forgot this?" Victor looked at her. Her hands trembled slightly, though her voice was steady. For reasons he could not explain, he didn't take it. Instead, he asked, "Do you know what this ring means to me?" Rosa blinked, unsure. "It must be very important. It looks like love." Her answer silenced him. None of his executives, none of his advisors, had ever spoken so simply, so truly. He studied her face. Lines of struggle carved her skin, but her eyes shone with honesty. Slowly, he pushed the ring back into her hands. Then, keep it, he said. The room froze. A few assistants who had lingered gasped audibly. Rosa's eyes widened, her breath catching. Sir, I can't. This is yours. Victor's voice was calm but firm. It was mine, but today it belongs to you. The silence thickened. Everyone stared, stunned by what they were witnessing. Tears filled Rosa's eyes. She clutched the ring, shaking her head. But why? Victor leaned forward, his voice low but filled with conviction. Because this ring is not just gold. It is a symbol of love, sacrifice, and integrity. And I see those same qualities in you. You've given years of service here, unseen and unacknowledged. Yet you never complain. You move with humility, with dignity. You reminded me today of what truly matters. I want you to have it. The room held its breath. Rosa's tears spilled freely now. She whispered, I don't deserve this. Victor shook his head. Yes, you do. You deserve far more than this ring. But let it remind you, Rosa, that your work, your presence, your life, they matter. More than the millions discussed in this room, more than the profits we chase. You matter. The executives, men and women hardened by years of business, looked on in shock. Some glanced at each other, ashamed by how many times they had walked past Rosa without a word. Rosa pressed the ring to her chest, unable to speak. The weight of it was more than metal. It was recognition, respect, something she had not received in years. She bowed her head, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Then something unexpected happened. One by one, members of the board stood. They approached Rosa, offering words of thanks, of apology, of respect. We should have noticed you, one said quietly. We owe you more than silence. Another added, you've given this place a soul we forgot it had. Rosa could only nod. Overwhelmed, Victor placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You may be the cleaner here, but today, you've cleaned more than this room. You've reminded us all what integrity looks like. News of the moment spread quickly. By afternoon, the story had reached beyond the skyscraper. Headlines appeared. CEO gives ring to cleaner, a lesson in humanity. Social media filled with posts. Strangers praising Rosa's humility and Victor's gesture. People who had never heard her name were suddenly inspired by her dignity. But for Rosa, the true treasure was not the ring itself. It was the realization that she was seen, that her years of quiet service had not been in vain. She placed the ring in a small velvet box at home, beside a framed photograph of her late husband. To her, it symbolized both her past and her future. Love that endured, respect that was earned. Victor, too, was changed. From that day forward, he made it a habit to greet every employee by name. From executives to janitors, he began initiatives to support workers often overlooked, funding, scholarships, and programs for cleaners, security guards, and cafeteria staff. He often said to his team, the true wealth of this company lies not in its profits, but in its people. And whenever someone asked why, he would glance at his hand, bare where the ring once was, and smile. Because I once gave away my most valuable possession to someone who deserved it far more than me. And her reaction stunned not just the room, but my heart. So the next time you walk past someone unseen, remember, Rosa? Remember that dignity wears no title. And respect is owed to every soul who gives their labor with honesty. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and leave your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Grace Mitchell Stories, where tales of kindness, courage, and hope come alive every week. Together, let's keep reminding the world that true power is not in wealth, but in compassion.